At our 20th anniversary gala, my mother-in-law announced my affair, but my laugh made her empire. 250 guests watched my husband shove me into a dessert table. My mother-in-law stood over me in pearls, calmly telling the room I'd been cheating for years. Everyone decided I was guilty before I even stood up. Then I laughed, because she'd finally said it where she couldn't take it back. 3 years earlier, I came home early and found my husband crying at our kitchen sink. This was a man who never cried. I touched his shoulder and he flinched like I'd hurt him. "What's wrong?" I asked. He wiped his face and went blank. "Nothing. Just thinking about Dad." His father had been dead for 4 years. After that, my marriage started dying in small, ugly ways. He came home from a therapist his mother picked, looking foggy. He took pills from an unmarked bottle. He stopped touching me, stopped hearing me, and started asking his mother before he asked me about money, about our will, about my name on the house. One weekend, while he was out with her, I opened the locked drawer in his desk. Inside was a notebook in his handwriting, except it read like a hostage script. "Mother knows best. Mother protects me. My wife is temporary. My daughter belongs with Mother." I took photos, put it back, and threw up in my backyard. That's when I hunted down the first daughter-in-law my mother-in-law had sent away. My husband's brother died young, supposedly a heart attack, and the family never spoke his name. His widow answered my prepaid call. "You need to leave," she said. Then she told me the truth. The heart attack came after a cocktail of meds and supplements pushed by my mother-in-law. When she questioned it, the family smeared her until she signed papers just to escape. I didn't run. I called a friend who'd become a prosecutor. She listened and said, "This is coercive control and financial crime, possibly worse." A few weeks later, I sat with federal investigators who already had that therapist on a watch list. They asked if I'd help finish the case, which meant staying in my own home like it was enemy territory. So I played nice. I smiled at family dinners while my mother-in-law chipped at me in front of relatives. I gathered documents when my husband was at appointments. I wore a wire when I had to. I kept our daughter away because her grandmother wanted her back under guidance. By our anniversary, the investigators had receipts. Money moved into trusts my mother-in-law controlled, prescriptions that made no medical sense, and recordings of her directing the therapist to soften my husband before meetings. They wanted one last thing: her to accuse me publicly, on record, in front of witnesses. So I suggested a gala at the Royal York. I let her invite everyone she cared about. I let her find a planted message. I watched her confidence grow. At 9:47, she tapped her glass and smiled like a martyr. "My son deserves the truth," she said, voice shaking on cue. "His wife has been having an affair." She named his business partner. The room gasped. My husband's eyes turned hard, like someone flipped a switch. I slammed into the dessert table and everything jumped. Then glass cracked under my back, sharp and bright. Next, frosting burst across my throat and my chest. After that, the cake slid down, heavy and humiliating. My husband stood over me, breathing hard like he'd won. My mother-in-law waited for me to beg, right on cue. Then I started laughing, low and steady, and the room froze. Across the ballroom, I saw officers moving into place. Right beside her centerpiece was the tiny mic I'd hidden that morning. I pushed myself up, dripping buttercream, and looked at her. "Oh, Margaret," I said, loud enough for the closest tables. "You should have kept it private." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. A woman in a plain suit stepped in and flashed a badge. "Margaret Bowman Ashworth, you're under arrest." The therapist was arrested that same night. The old case reopened. My mother-in-law lost the only thing she worshipped: control, and the court gave her 15 years. My husband took longer to come back. When he finally looked at me like himself, he cried and asked, "Can you forgive me?" I didn't sugarcoat it. I don't know. We divorced quietly the next spring, co-parented our daughter, and kept the peace like two people who survived the same fire. People still ask how I laughed on that floor. I wasn't laughing because it hurt less. I laughed because her lie only worked in private and she just lit it up in front of everyone. So what would you do if your own family tried to erase you in public? Stay silent, or set the trap and smile when it snaps?